G'day fellas, and welcome to something a little bit different. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at some Chinese build orders. I'm going to be using this video to give you guys every single Chinese build order that I use. So the build orders are going to be down the bottom of the video, so you'll be able to click on the timestamps. So these are the following build orders. 2 TC Song Defense, 1 TC Zhuge Push, 2 TC Fast Castle, a Barracks opening, a water opening, and a 1 TC Fast Castle with a barbecue. So if you wanted to see any more of these in detail, I would encourage you to check out the Patreon because we've got a lot of coaching content over there, so plenty of stuff there. But let's get into it, and we're going to start with what is probably the most common. So the most common build order that you're going to be doing. So I'll just double check that I've got the right one. Yeah, here we go. Okay, great. So this is going to be quite a long video as well. So if there's a specific build order that you want to be reviewing, then make sure that you check that out in the link. But I'm going to be going through and just explaining, giving sort of a heads up with every single build order. So let's begin. So this is a 2 town center Song Dynasty defense. So it's optimal against civilizations that attack you in the feudal age but like to delay it a little bit. Civilizations like the Abbasid dynasty, civilizations like the Ottomans. It's a really good build order against them. So let's take a look and see exactly what happens. So I've featured this before on the channel, but just so you are familiar with it, we'll go through it again. So all villagers going over to a straggler tree. We're starting out with an imperial official and queuing up villagers, and we're moving our scout towards the middle of the map. First, looking for any of our sheep next to our town center that are close. Then we're going to be putting down a mill, bringing a sheep over, supervising the mill blueprint, and then moving all of our villagers onto this mill. We're also killing 1 sheep with a single villager so that we don't do the animation with all of our villagers. Now behind this, we've got more villagers that are going to be coming out. Now these guys are going to be moving down over to gold. We'll take a look up here. So we're just scouting around the base. That's all we're doing. So we're moving out one of our villagers down to gold. He's going to build a house, and then he's going to build a gold mine, or rather a mining camp. And of course, we're positioning all of our buildings around our potential Imperial Academy. We want to try and hit all of these guys where possible. So we'll speed it up a little bit. So we started off with 6 villagers on gold, and then moved 6 villagers on food, and then moved 1 to gold. And then of course, we go up to 8 on food, and then we add in a 2nd villager onto gold. This is called the Anomi build order. So Anomi is a member of the community, and he actually developed this build order. It is the fastest possible way for you to go to get Song Dynasty and to get a 2nd town center. So it's not the fastest way to get Song Dynasty. It's not the fastest way to get a 2nd town center, but it is the fastest way to get both of those things. So now what we're going to be doing is, after we've got our 8 villagers on food and our 2 villagers on gold, we're rallying out to wood. We're going to be putting 3 villagers on wood. And we're also going to start collecting our tax. So you can see we've collected 40 tax so far. We always want to wait until we've got 40 tax before we actually collect it, just because we don't want to miss out any of these potential drop-offs that are coming through. So we'll speed it up a little bit as we get towards our age up, which is about to come down. So once again, when it comes to placing the age up, we're just going to go smack bang in the middle of everything here. So you can see this perfectly crosses these. Gets the mill, gets the lumber camp. So really, really nice Imperial Academy. And at the same time, now we're just scouting out the enemy base. So against a civilization like the Ottomans, there is the potential that they may actually hit you with spearmen early. Now, if that is the case, this build order is perfect because it's about 3 minutes that they begin with their first spearmen. Anywhere between 3 minutes and 3 minutes 30. And you can pull your villagers off gold right now. This is not a big deal. It is going to delay your age up slightly, but it's not going to be a massive issue. So I would always recommend this kind of opening. You're always going to be able to get up to the 2nd age very reliably, and you should be able to get up to your Song Dynasty without too many issues either. So after we've got the 3 villagers over on wood, we're also building another house when we've got the wood to do it, and then we're continuing to rally out to food. These 3 vills, once they're finished building their landmark, they're also going to go over to food, and we're going to train an Imperial official as soon as this is finished. And we're going to rally our Imperial official just to collect the gold from the lumber camp first. And then he's going to come down and collect the gold from the mining camp here. The whole time we're also picking up our tax from the mill. So there's quite a bit to do in this build order, but it is a very efficient build order. And you can see we dropped off the gold here for our Imperial official before. And now our 2 villagers, we make sure that we drop off that gold before the Imperial official comes out. so that the tax is ready to pick up, and then these guys are going over to wood. So we've got 5 villagers on wood, and everybody else is on food for the moment. So he's going to drop off, and you can see we've got 162, which is perfect for our next pickup, which is going to be 40 gold from this mill. There you go. So now we're at 202 gold, and we're going to go drop down our landmark, our Barbican. So you can see that it's going to be right in range here. So if we're up against an Ottoman player, we could very easily just fall back into this. And if he does make us cancel, then we can always just bring that one tile back, one tile closer to the town center. So now we're going to enter the transition period. So here what we're doing is we're pulling, as soon as we drop down this landmark, we're pulling all of our villagers off food. Now, not all of them, but 10. 10 villagers are going over onto stone. One of them is going to build the mining camp, and all the rest of them are going to start collecting stone. We're also going to send our Imperial official to follow. It's going to go and supervise out there, and of course, just collecting some gold wherever possible. Looks like we brought in a couple more sheep. We always want the mill next to the town center like this. It's the way that you can maximize your efficiency. And now we're rallying out to food once again. These 3 vills, once they're finished making this landmark, we're going to also rally them over to food. And the assumption is that our enemy is going to be probably putting on some pressure here with a spearman or 2. And if that's the case, then no problem. You're just going to make sure that your villagers are not dying, rotating them around. If they're attacking on this side with a spearman, move this villager over to this side, and vice versa. If you have to trade them out, do so. So just move the villager back over here and then bring another one out to replace it. But assuming that that there's no aggression, so maybe you're playing on a map like Hill and Dale or something like that, and they're being a bit more defensive, then of course you are absolutely fine. And now you can see we've got all the stone that we need to age up. We collect the gold to get out of there. Get out of there, wolf. We collect all the stone that we need, and now we move all of our villagers over onto food, because at this point in the game, we're just waiting for the wood for our town center, and there's our town center coming out down at just before 6 minutes. And so what we're doing now is we are looking to defend. So we need Chukunu. So we're at 6 minutes into the game. The Ottoman player has aged up. They've put down a blacksmith. They've put down their second military school. They've put down an archery range. And they're probably getting their research, you know, their wheelbarrow. They're getting their double broad axe. So the TC is finished at 6 minutes 20. So very safe TC. And now what we're doing is we're focusing all of our efforts on these 2 things. So we've got one that is focusing on collecting food. The other one is collecting up our wood, and we're supervising them as well. We're also making sure that we're picking up our mills and our lumber camps constantly. You can see we've stacked up plenty of taxes in these, and we haven't stacked up plenty of taxes, rather we've collected plenty of tax from these. Normally these would be stacked up really high, but not the case here. So we've got 15 villagers on food. This is all we're going to need to begin with, and then we're going to start rallying out to wood. And from here, we're going to start dropping down our archery range. So the archery range comes down at 7 minutes. Now, you can get faster than this, but I find this to be the most efficient timing. And once again, making sure that we're always moving forward with our lumber camps, just so that they are more productive. And of course, collecting our tax as we do it. So we've stacked up 80 tax in that. There we go, 42 tax, and now back up to 112. And now we're going to start looking at additional Imperial officials. And we're going to continue rallying out to wood. So we'll speed it up a little bit, just so that you can see, but you can get the general idea from here. Gonna drop down a village when we got the chance. I might just 2x it for you, just so that it doesn't get too crazy. And a second archery range now gonna come down. So we're not prioritizing +1 ranged attack here as much as we are in just getting a mass. Getting a mass is just really important when you're going for a 2 town center play. Your main focus should just be on making units. And that's what we're doing here. And so now that we're on 20, we've got 20 villagers out over on wood, we're going to start rallying down to gold, and then we can start thinking about getting our upgrades. We've got a couple of idle villagers here underneath the mill, so that's probably my fault for just not moving the sheep in the appropriate spots, but this is just the consequence of having too many sheep stacked on each other, and this is very inefficient for our economy. So we're up to 4 Imperial officials. We're booming like crazy, and now at 9 minutes 30, we're going to make the transition out over onto food. So we're obviously going to be a little bit. Our transition to food was a little bit slow there, so we will have a bit of idle time. You can see right now we're idle on our villagers just for a little bit, but now that we've got 10 villagers down on gold, we're able to start rallying villagers back out over to food. You can kind of feel the balance from here, but this is essentially it. This defense should be capable against pretty much every single Ottoman opening that there is at the moment. You can see that we do go for 15 minutes here, but realistically, the rest of this is just me making Chukunu, adding in spearmen, and then aging up to the castle age. I think I do that with about 100 villagers by about the 15-minute mark, so it's a pretty decent opening, but that is the best way that you can do a solid defense against the Ottoman opening. And remember that until you've really won a big fight against the Ottomans, it's probably not best to age up, because at any point, like if they kill your scout, you don't really know exactly what they're up to. So they could be just making like 6 rams. And if you try and go castle and they've got 6 rams, and yeah, well, I'm sure you can imagine it's not going to go well. So now we're just starting to get upgrades. You can see we're going siege engineering as well. Maybe there's an outpost or something that we're looking to clear. If we want to do that, we can build a ram. Now we're stacking up a lot of wood. So what we're going to be doing is dropping down a granary over here as a preemptive granary. Instead of dropping a mill out here, we're dropping a granary because we're going to be putting farms around it. I always like to leave 4 tiles for my granaries so that I can put in 2 layers of farms. So you can see right there, enough to put in. Obviously, we're going to fix that up, make that right. But that's going to be a really important factor in your expansion, is making sure that you have farms. The sooner you can get your farms up, the better. But at the same time, you do not want to die. So maybe after you take a really good fight and you look down, you see you've got 1,000 wood. That's probably a good time for you to add in your farms. The main reason why we want to add in our farms sooner rather than later is because farms are infinite. So let's say we move all of these 10 or these 11 villages here onto berries. It's going to exhaust these berries 11 villages faster than if these 11 villages were on farms instead. And as a result, these villages, these 8 villages here, are not going to be on, or are not going to need to transition to farms as soon because of that. So it just basically eases you into your transition rather than going, oh crap, I've got no food income, I've got no wood, now I need to make farms and I'm in a really bad spot. It eases your transition in. And then of course the final part, the final touch on any Chinese base is a few little walls here, defensive walls, just like that. But you can see behind this, our economy's amazing. We're getting all of our upgrades in. We're just adding in more production here, and it's going to be a barracks. So that's it. That is the first build order. That is the 2TC Song Dynasty defense. Now, there is another build order where you go for 2 TCs, which is not going to be Song Dynasty, but rather it's going to be Fast Castle. So I've got to make sure I get the right game for you guys. I think this is going to be it. Yeah, this is going to be it. So this is a really good build order against the English, because the English typically are looking to go for a Fast Castle themselves against China. Sometimes they go for early aggression. We've seen more and more English players trending towards a feudal age play, but at the high level, it seems to be mainly around fast castling. And so what that looks like from the English side is farms in the Dark Age, wheelbarrows and farms in the Dark Age, a little bit of a delayed age up, and then normally around about an 8 minute 30 age up from the English with their castle age. And always they're going to go for that palace of, or rather the King's Palace. So our opening is going to be exactly the same as the last game. So I'm just going to speed through it. If you need it to be slowed down, then just go back and watch the first one. So it's all the exact same steps that we did. So we'll watch it through on 4 times, coming out, dropping down, all the things that we did in that first game. I'll speed it up now up to 8 times, just so that we can get through to the important part. But I'll show you the timings that we get as well. Now, against the English, you can sometimes have a problem with men-at-arms, and maybe at your level, you've got a lot of men-at-arms that are harassing you, and you're having a lot of problem with them. Rest assured, I do have a build order for you. Okay, that's going to be the 1TC BBQ Fast Castle. Okay, so if you want to go and watch that, the link obviously down in the description to the timestamp for that one. Everything here quite standard though. We're just continuing the same thing that we did before. And let's check the timing on the on the town center. So we drop it off. We're at 5:55 at the moment, and we're a little bit shy on wood. We need 10 wood to go, but you can see that our timing is pretty good here. I move over to berries just to grab in a little bit of berries before it, but there you go, 6:05. Not a bad timing there for the second town center. So great, we've added in the second town center now. We've gotten up to the most important point, right? If you're able to pull this off, you can be really flexible from here. You can say, okay, do I want to go to Castle Age? Do I want to defend with Chukunu? Maybe I want to, I don't know, add a third town center. There's lots of crazy stuff that you can do for China, but this is your 6-minute opening. If you can master this, you're going to be in a great spot. But let's take a look and see exactly what happens from here. So the key factor is maintaining food production. For China, Song Dynasty, you're going to be using 40 food, or rather 50 food, every villager, and you're going to be making 3 villages every minute. But with Song Dynasty, that gets upped. That's up to like 4.5 villages every minute, which means that you're using more food. So for you to be able to maintain villager production together, and you can see I've got a little bit of idle time there. Come on, Drongo, pick it up, mate. I've got a little bit of idle time, but sorry, that wasn't what I wanted to emphasize. What I wanted to emphasize is that you need to be adding in a lot of villagers onto food. It might seem like a crazy amount of villagers on food, but I assure you it's not. You want to go up to 25 villagers on food, and you can see we're just focusing right here on the villagers that are next to the mill. We're just collecting the sheep. We will expand out over onto the berries shortly as well, but the main focus is just this sheep because it's being empowered by the Imperial official, and we want to make sure we get out a 3rd Imperial official that we can empower, or that we can supervise this mill, and then we can make the transition over. So you'll see now that we've got this Imperial official we can supervise, we're going to transition our villagers over to berries straight away. So now that we've got 25 villagers on food, the transition to gold begins. We're at about the 7-minute 30 mark. The English player is well and truly aged up. They may potentially hit you with an early longbow or some early spearmen as well. If that happens, then you're probably needing to add in a stable or at least an archery range in the feudal age, but that's something that you're going to need to be scouting out. You can see right now we've got the scout just chilling outside the enemy base, just keeping track of any potential units, but most of the time English players seem to be avoiding that, and they just kind of focus on their own game because they do kind of favor their own timings. But anyway, let's continue watching. We're gathering up all of that food, and remember we're rallying villagers out, and once we get 10 villagers on gold down here, 10 or 11, 12, something around that, then we're going to start rallying out over onto wood. So you can see we actually went for 9 villagers on gold, so that's fine. Now we've got 3 Imperial officials at the moment. Both of these guys are on the mills. Food is by far the most important resource. We always want food. There's no question about it. You always need to be supervising your mills, and you want to make sure that you've got at least 10 villagers on every respective mill that you're supervising. Don't be supervising a mill with like 3 villagers up here. Don't be supervising a mill with 2 villagers out here. Always have, double-digit numbers at the very least. So age up now, coming down, 850, and we're dropping down stables. So what's the strategy? How does it work? So the strategy works like this. You're going to be going with the astronomical clock tower, but you're not really going to be making too many units out of it. Against the English, your main focus is going to be knights and crossbows. Now, this build order, you can work it against any civilization. The English is the main focus, though, and there are a lot of English players on the ladder, so I do think it's important that we cover this build order here. But your main focus is actually going to be getting up to the castle age as quickly as you can and supervising monks. That's right, you're going to be supervising monks out of your monastery. So we're aging up with 12 villagers. So for any other civ, that's the equivalent of 24 villagers. It's a huge amount. And we're going to have an age up just after 9 minutes, so not a bad little timing here. And with all of these gold villagers, we're going to be making sure that we drop down our monastery as quickly as possible. Let's go. So monastery getting dropped down, and we're going to be supervising up the monastery with an Imperial official. And we're rallying to the contested relics. That's going to be the big factor, rallying to the contested relics by supervising the monastery. Our monks are coming out in 12 seconds instead of 30 seconds. So really important that we do that, because that might make the difference between getting a relic and not getting a relic. So you really want to do that. A little bit of missed macro from me here. I think because we've got this Imperial official on the lumber camp when it should be collecting gold. And you can see that as a result, we're a little bit behind on our second monk. And now we're creating lances from our stables. And the lancers are going to be rallied out, at least they should be, rallied out over towards the relics, because we're looking to deny any monk from picking up those relics. So basically, the aim of the game here is to just pick up the relics, and that's it. But at this point, we're in a really good position, right? We're on 59 villagers. If you're playing against the English player, it's likely they're probably just crossing like 30 threshold right now, 31, 32, somewhere around that, because it is the 10-minute mark. So you're in a really good spot, but we'll speed up a little bit, just so you can see it. We're going to be adding in archery ranges shortly, but the main focus is just picking up all of those relics and making sure that we're contesting any enemy units that are out here, and making sure that we're picking up the 3 contested relics are the most important. So if we take a look at the minimap right now, we've picked up the 1, 2, 3 that were in the middle. Ooh, I don't know what that was. I guess I'm getting excited. This one relic down here to the south and this one relic up to the north, these are considered safe relics. So he's got a safe relic, you've got a safe relic. So I always leave these ones till last. Your safe relic is always pretty safe. His safe relic, it's going to be hard to deny that from him, because he will probably look to pick that up very early. At least most English players do. So now adding in archery ranges. Crossbow is going to be coming out from here. Crossbows will do very effectively against spearmen. And you can see my macros kind of gone out the wazoo here. So this is probably where I want to be adding in siege, but I don't do it. Instead, I add in production and I add in farms, which is fine. And we look to get our farm upgrades as soon as we start adding them in. So getting the tier 2 upgrade. Now, of course, that also affects berries. That also affects sheep, so you can look to get it sooner. Enemy coming through with some men-at-arms. And that's part of the reason why knights and crossbows just work so well against the French, because they like to make men-at-arms. Our relic gets denied down here, or rather their relic gets denied. But that's essentially it. And then from here, you're just making crossbows, you're making knights. You can mix in some siege if you're in the mood for it. But this is an incredibly effective combo against the English, and that's essentially it. And then from here, we're just making plenty of villages. You can see we crossed 100 villages before the 16-minute mark. Everything is good. All right, so let's move on to the next one. So the next opening is going to be a water opening. So if you play Mediterranean, this is going to be a great opening for you. This is also a pretty decent opening on maps like Forest Ponds, if you do play that one. So this is a very specific build order. You're going to have to pay quite close attention here, because if you miss anything, you'll be scratching your head. So make sure if you're practicing this and you're a big fan of Mediterranean, that you are coming back just to double check everything. So, China, good fun. We love it. But it is complicated. So we're going to be rallying all of our villagers here to a straggler tree. And then these villagers here from the town center are going to be rallied out towards the pond. The scout is going to pick up our 2 starting sheep, and then going to be looking for deep sea fish or deep water fish. It used to be, I think it used to be called deep water fish, but they changed the name to deep sea fish. So we can see we're going to do that. So first villager going to come out of the town center, and we're going to rally him down, or her, down towards this position. Now you can see we've actually got a pretty bad spawn. There's no deep sea fish or deep water fish that is close to our shoreline. So it means we're going to have to make our dock a little bit closer. So you want to try and get it as close as you can to the deep water fish. It just helps you out with a bit of efficiency, but it means that our dock's going to be further away. Ideally, you'd love for it to be right here, because then it reduces the walking distance for your villager and also for your follow-up imperial officials. But pause. Okay, so here we're just still collecting from this straggler tree. It's really important that when you collect from the straggler trees, that you make sure you shift-click them onto the other straggler trees, because if you don't, you can see how this straggler tree is quite close to the wood line. What's going to happen is these vills are all going to go and chop these trees on the wood line, and you don't want that to happen, because if that happens, now you've got to walk extra far, and you're also going to have your villagers on different trees, which means that they chop slower to get the tree down, because you want that tree down as quickly as possible. So make sure you always shift click them. After the first villagers come out and begun building the dock, the rest of your villagers, or at least 3 of your villagers, are going to be coming out onto sheep. You're going to just kill 1 sheep under your town center, and you can see right there, that's what I was talking about. Now, we've done another thing as well, and this is where it gets a little bit hard, because you will have to pay very specific attention to what we're doing. So, as we move all of these villagers over to the next tree, we actually took 1 villager that had 5 wood left in it. So we were keeping track of our villagers and how much wood they had. One of them had 5 wood, and we dropped it off. And the reason why we drop it off is because we need to drop a house down, but we also need to make a fishing boat. And so normally your dock would already be up and you'd have a fishing boat queued, but for us, ours is a little bit delayed. That's okay. And we're also going to be making a house back home. And so if we don't drop off that 5 wood, what's going to happen is, as you can see, it's going to be coming in right now, and then we're going to be making the house, and it's going to be quite hard for us to hit that timing. We would still get it. It wouldn't be an issue at all. But it's just you want to try and avoid that if where possible. So a little bit of idle time here, but we're just making sure that we're constantly clicking. And once again, going to be clicking here with our fishing boat. There we go. And the reason why we do this, the reason why we don't go for an early lumber camp is because we need all of the wood that we can to be going into our fish on the water. So we want to make as many fishing boats as we possibly can. And we will eventually get a lumber camp. And it might seem counterintuitive playing the Chinese and not utilizing the tax mechanic early, but I assure you it is absolutely fine, because the power of the fishing boat is much greater than the power of early tax, because it's realistically probably only about 20 to 30 tax that you might be pulling in here. Actually, I can do the math. That's 15, yeah, about 45 tax that you'll be missing out on. So it's obviously quite a bit in the early game, but still, you'd rather have your fishing boats up faster. So once you've got your 3 villages down on sheep, you can start rallying out to wood now. And once you hit your 9th villager on wood, you should be able to get down an Imperial official. Sometimes it'll be 8, sometimes it'll be 7. It will change the way that, depending on the spawn that you get, basically changes how quickly you can get your Imperial official. But you want it really, really quickly because you can start supervising your lumber camp as soon as you do that. So we begin putting the lumber camp down. And we want to get to 11 villagers on wood. That's the magic number of villagers that we want on wood. And we're going to continue doing that. And until we reach that number, we just keep rallying out to wood. Of course, making sure that you can see right here, we've got 74 wood. Ideally, what you want to do is have 75 wood there so that you can actually train a fishing boat. It's all just about making sure that we're being efficient with our villagers and our fishing boats. So we're up now on 10 villagers onto wood, adding in another house under the town center with a villager from food, because we don't really care too much about our food villagers. Our food villagers are very, very... we're going to have excess food. Let's just put it that way. So we're not too fussed about it. But now we have our 11th villager here out on wood. And we're going to actually move our Imperial official down. So I just did a big drop off up here. And then I sent my Imperial official off. So he's going to come down and pick up the 40 gold from our dock. I'll speed it up a little bit. And what we're going to do now that we've got 11 villagers on wood is we're going to start rallying them out onto gold. Now, we're still training fishing boats. We want to keep training fishing boats until we have 9 fishing boats. That's a magic number. 9 fishing boats. I think sometimes I go 10. It depends how you feel. But ideally, 9 is the key number here. So, we've also collected a little bit of tax here. And now we're rallying 3 villagers out onto gold. We're going to leave these villagers here. They're never gonna drop off the gold. But what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking for our age up shortly. And the villagers we're going to be using to age up are these 3 villagers right here, our food villagers. Now we're stacking up quite a bit of food here. But rest assured, we're going to be using it because when we want to train our junks, you can see they cost 90 food, and our war junk, it costs 120 food. So we need that food banked up. So at the moment, we're sitting on 9 fishing boats. I am adding in a 10th fishing boat. I must have done the math and said, you know what, I can probably squeeze this one in. So I do it because I'm a bad boy like that. That's why the girls love me, because I'm a bad boy for squeezing in an extra fishing boat. And we add in a second dock. And now we're in the transition period. Now, this opening will have a tough time against the Rus. If you've seen the Mr. Rus opening, it is difficult to beat something like that. But this will take you most of the time against the Holy Roman Empire, against the English. It'll do pretty well for you. So once we've added those 3 villagers onto gold, we're rallying back out onto wood. You can see we're up to 15 villagers now on wood. And as soon as we age up, it's wham bam. We are going for a junk, and then we are going for a war junk. We're rallying them down towards the enemy's side. Now, we've been a little bit late on the age up, so don't be afraid to just pull 1 or 2 extra villagers over to your Imperial Academy. In this situation, I didn't do it. Probably not the best decision, but it gets you up a little bit faster, but obviously you have less resources when you do it. So now we're going to be adding in a 3rd dock. Now, this is probably a little bit early on the 3rd dock, but the idea behind this is that we want to just be pumping out warships non-stop. And the economy is going to be pretty strong. The Chinese economy, obviously, with the Imperial official, so you can see we've got 16 villagers here with a 20% multiplier. So realistically, almost 20 villagers they're gathering up. It's quite effective. But now coming out, we've got the war junk, the springald ship, and the archer ship. And meanwhile, out here, we are still gathering up our food and just sending out more and more units as we get them. Now, ideally, what you want to be doing, water combat is a situation or a topic that will require probably 17 videos. That's the kind of thing that it comes to water combat. What this is designed to do is show you the most efficient way to be getting up to the feudal age with a water presence, and then looking to challenge your enemy on water as well. That's what that's what this is designed to do. Now, behind this, what we're also going to be doing is, of course, going for our Song Dynasty. I think we're going to be sending a few villagers down. Come on, guys. Let's go, let's go, let's go. And now we're going to be doing a Song Dynasty behind this. Any second. Any second. There we go. There we go. We got it down eventually. And meanwhile, behind that, we're just adding in more and more junks. Now, ideally, you want to have a nice little mix of war junks and junks initially. and then you want to move into 100% junks. But explosive junks are also going to be something that's pretty important. But as I said, it's a topic that you're going to need a very long video on to get into water and the complexities that it's got. The opening that I've given you here should be more than enough for you to give yourself at least a solid footing. You know, maybe you're playing a team game and you get Mediterranean. It's like, oh, what do I do here? This is what you do here. It can be tough to memorize this as well, but once you give it a couple of goes, you'll feel comfortable with it. Now, the next thing that we're going to do, once we've secured water control, we're going to be behind this. We're just going to be booming with our triple docks. That's going to be the key thing. We're just going to be booming like absolute madman. Do not be afraid to add in up to 50 fishing boats. You can go really crazy with them. Keep in mind, they're a little bit more expensive than a villager, but a dock is much cheaper, much more affordable than a town center. And so now you can see additional upgrades coming through. It looks like we just picked up the drift nets tier 1. And we're slowly working down the enemy over here. Obviously, this is just an AI, so don't be alarmed. It's not this easy all the time. But behind this, once we've won water, we say, okay, well, you know what? We don't need a junk. We can just go 100% fishing boats, and that's exactly what we do. You can add in more docks here. You can think about going to Castle Age. You can look for a Chokunu defense, maybe. There's a lot open for you. But that is going to be the water build. So let's move on to the next build order, which is going to be a barracks opening. So this build order is a build order that I like to do against the Mongols. It is not a build order that I really bring out quite a lot, but my theory crafting has actually said that it should be quite effective against most civilizations. I just haven't, I guess I haven't had the opportunity on the ladder yet to really try it out. And yeah, it's a bit of it's a build order that allows you to, against the Mongols especially, be aggressive. You can be very aggressive against the Mongols. It means that you can stop them from getting a tower up on you. It also means that you can force them to react to your spearmen. So we'll talk more about this as the build order goes on. Let's focus on what happened. So we're going to just start with our very typical start where we're moving all of the villagers to a straggler tree, and then we're going with an imperial official. So let's take a look at exactly how it goes down. So once again, moving to the front of our base with the scout. And we come on back over towards... Yeah, so once again, we're looking to drop down that blueprint as well. I don't always drop down the blueprint. Sometimes I'll just hotkey these guys and make it that way. We set everybody up, make sure they're ready to go. And down goes the mill. And sometimes you're not going to be able to get the kill on the sheep here, and that's okay. Just don't fuss about it. Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. It's one of those small things where it's like, yeah, look, if you can do it, good job. If you can't, it's okay. So now what we're going to be doing is rallying all of our villagers over to wood. That's it. We're just going to be rallying all of our villagers to wood. Now, not all of them, but we'll be rallying 5 villagers. So it's a nice number for you to just think about. One of the other things we did just here is we also moved just one of our villagers onto this straggler tree, and we picked up 3 wood from it, and we dropped it off at the town center so that we can afford a village. So that is the opening. So we've got the mill on the town center, we've got the lumber camp, and we've got the village. We've gathered 3 wood from a straggler tree, and that's it. It might seem, I feel like it's not too complicated, but I suspect it might overwhelm a few people. When it comes to your positioning here on the village against the Mongols, you kind of just want to make sure it's always in the town center range like this. At the very least, you're just going to be able to repair it, but there's never going to be a time where you're playing against the Mongols and they're going to threaten this in the early game. They might threaten it later on, but by then you're probably going to have the Barbican up, you're probably going to have your second town center up, that sort of stuff. So we just continue right now, and after you get a nice little sheep drop off, don't forget you want to kill all the sheep, just so that your pathing is much better, and you want to do that with 1 villager at a time. So just 1 villager, clocking all of the sheep. And now we're up to 4 villagers on wood. It's going to be very shortly that we're 5 villagers on wood. We're going to send out our scout into the middle of the map. Now, one of the things that we did see here is that there are 2 wolves. We don't want to play with those wolves because these guys really hurt. We can take them out, but it's just going to hurt us. So ideally what we want to do is just avoid it. So I'm always going to be rallying my units to the side of the lumber camp, or the side of the trees right there. So we're picking up our gold from our buildings here. We spot out the town center. We see that the town center is on the Uvu here, which means that we can focus his gold. So I'll just pause it just to talk a little bit about this. So for Mongol players, it's very rare that they get an amazing spawn. But essentially, they should have one of these two things exposed. Either the Uvu or the gold. One of the two. And if your enemy is not being aggressive, let's say they're making pastures and they're just playing their own game, you can target whichever one they don't have exposed. Or rather, you can target whichever one they do have exposed. Now, there are rare occasions where your enemy will have both of them protected, and in that case, the best option for you is to just cry, because that is a very good spawn. But yes, it does happen sometimes, but most of the times it is pretty rare. So we're up to 5 villages on wood. And we've started rallying back to food now, so you can see we're up to 7 on food. And we're going to be dropping down a barracks very, very soon. Now, at this time, the Mongol player might be looking to push out across the map with their villager and with their first 2 spearmen. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be dropping down our barracks with 2 villagers here. You can see we've got quite an excess of food, so it's not a huge deal for us to be spending the extra time building up this barracks. And now what we're going to do is a very tricky maneuver. There's a reason why we built our base like this. This is a very efficient base that we have built. So the Imperial official, whenever he supervises the mill, it's going to be giving you 20% additional food. The problem is that 20% only happens at the drop-off. It doesn't happen through the duration of the collection. So what it means is if you can time the drop-offs so that you're always supervising when you're dropping off, then technically you can supervise 2 buildings at once. Let me show you what I'm talking about. We'll slow it down. I'm going to queue up in the barracks 2 spearmen. You'll see it right now. 1, 2. And then at the same time, I'm also going to tell all my villagers here to drop off the food. And the Imperial official is going to be boosting it all. And then I'm going to tell them to go back to food. And then at the same time, I'm going to boost my barracks. You can see a spearman normally takes 15 seconds to train. If we go right now into the tech tree and look at a barracks, you'll see a spearman takes 15 seconds. But even though my Imperial official hasn't moved, nothing changed about them at all. They're supervising the barracks right now. And that's because all I've done is I've just selected the Imperial official and said, hey, supervise the barracks. If your barracks was built over here, if your barracks was built down here, you wouldn't be able to do this. But because we built our barracks next to our mill and our mill next to our town center, we're able to do that. Now you can see that plus 10 that just got delivered there. That was a villager that was out of sync. So we didn't get plus 12 from that. We got plus 10. But once the second spearman is finished, we're going to be moving our Imperial official from this barracks back to the mill. You'll watch and see as soon as it's done, it goes from 6 seconds back to 15. So we've changed where we're supervising. We've just changed it over to here, and you're going to see that our villagers are on 9 food, 10 food any second here, and they're going to be dropping off. And now we get the full supervised amount. And that's how you can supervise 2 buildings at the same time with China in the Dark Age. It's a really powerful mechanic. Not a lot of people really use it or utilize it because it is high APM to do it. If you're feeling uncomfortable doing it, then I would just say don't bother supervising the barracks. It's not a big deal, but it is nice to get these units out a little bit faster. You're saving 9 seconds on both of these units, which means it's 18 seconds by the time that second spearman comes out. That's pretty decent. So now what we're going to be doing is moving out and looking. So we would have spotted any enemy villager coming across the map with our scout. We're making sure we're always checking to see what our enemy's doing with our scout. Remember earlier where we ran into range of the town center, we spot the Uvu and we see that there's no barracks under the Uvu. So we don't need to be too fussed about our enemy being aggressive. Instead, we're going to put the aggression on them. But in the case that they were being aggressive towards us, what we would be doing is looking for their villager mainly. That's their main thing. Where's the villager putting down the outpost? And we want to just attack that villager. Now, in this game, or in this example, I build 5 spearmen. And this is the bare minimum amount of spearmen that you should be building, just because it allows for very easy macro to the Dark Age, or rather to the Feudal Age. But in the event that your enemy is making lots of spearmen in the Dark Age, don't be afraid to match them. That's absolutely fine. All right, well, let's continue. So we're dropping off gold from the mill. We're dropping off gold from the barracks. You can see we're up to 163 at the moment. We've got 22 gold in here, and we're still rallying out to food. We've got 5 spearmen that are moving across the map at the moment. We're going to make sure that we are looking for gold. So we can see that this gold here is unexposed. So realizing that there are 3 lovely gold mines over on the other side of the map. That's probably where he's gathering up from. But of course, it wasn't efficient for us to walk there just because of the wolves that were here. So now back home, we're continuing to just do our thing. We're not training any more spearmen. We're just gathering up. And you can see we've still got the 5 villages on wood. And this is a really nice, flexible component of this build order because it means at a moment's notice you can drop additional buildings. And it also means a little bit later on, if you want to go for a town center, you can. 4 minutes 25, we're going to be dropping down our landmark. So we're about five seconds late. That's okay. And any time around this is pretty decent. If you're doing it before 4:30, you're having a good time. And we do get confirmation that his villagers are now out over here on the gold. So obviously the AI is much slower than your standard player would be. And your standard player would have likely aged up by now. And they probably wouldn't be on the gold, or if they are on the gold, they're probably looking for a fast castle, something like that. Maybe they go for an outpost here, or maybe what they do is they go for archers instead. It's very common to see Mongol players go for archers, and so what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of complexity right now, and I apologize in advance because this does get quite complex around this time. So we've gathered up gold from the mill as well as from the lumber camp through the tax system, and now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be getting forestry. Now, forestry costs 50 gold and 25 food. But when you research a tech as China, you actually get a rebate of 32 gold. If you do that under the Imperial Academy's influence, it doubles to 64 gold. So technically, we're gaining 14 gold by researching this upgrade. So normally you wouldn't research this upgrade because it's not that important. But here for China, we're going to be doing that. And not only that, we're also going to be supervising it. You can see right now, we're going to be making sure the timing of this upgrade is matching when we finish the landmark. We want to finish the landmark and the upgrade at the same time. You can see it's about 5 seconds out, so it's not the best. And what we're going to be doing is using the gold that we've got from this lamp, or from this upgrade here. So you're about to see it come in. So we're going to pick up the gold, and we're going to drop it off straight away. And then we're going to start researching hardened spearmen, which costs 35 gold. And of course, using the same math that we did before, that is correct. You're actually going to be getting 64 gold back for this, which means that you're gaining 20, what is it, 29? Yeah, 29, 29? 39? 29? 29? Yeah, 29. Sorry. I'm just here doing math in this video. Sorry, guys. You're going to be gaining 29 gold for researching this upgrade. And then, of course, we're going to come over and supervise it. And at the same time, we're dropping down a stable. Now, remember before, we talked about what the potential response to this might be. It might be an outpost from the enemy, or it could be archers. Well, what do we have here if it isn't a stable that's getting supervised by an Imperial official? Which means you've got yourself 9-second horsemen coming out right now. You can see the power of China and the way that we're trying to utilize it. Every single aspect of China, we're trying to make sure that we've got the Imperial official there to power us up to hit these early timings. Now, at some point, we probably put 2 villagers on gold. I don't know how else they would have got there. Something I neglected to mention, so I do apologize. But in the event we get chased away by archers, these horsemen are going to be coming out at about 6 minutes, so a very good timing right there. And they're going to be pushing back your enemy. At the same time, that's going to prevent your enemy. So one of the big issues that you'll have when you open spearmen is your enemy makes 4 archers, and then they come and they put some pressure on you. Maybe they come out and they'll pressure your gold. Maybe they'll come out and force it so that you can't drop your Barbican down. Well, guess what? Now with these horsemen are going to stop that from ever happening. So let's take a look at what happens next. So we are heading towards Song Dynasty. That's going to be our goal. So we've opened up with aggression against the Mongols. We've denied their outpost. We've forced an outpost on their side or archers. We've dealt with the archers subsequently. And now we're expanding. We're dropping down our Barbican in a really good spot that's going to enable us to take the frontier if we want to take them. And we definitely do want to take these, but at the same time, we might be under, you know, maybe our enemy gets an outpost up here. So what I'm going to be emulating, and because I can't do this against an AI, is dealing with outposts and neglecting entire food sources to do it. So as soon as our Barbican is dropped down, you'll notice some similarities here with the Anomi build. What are we doing? As soon as we drop down our Barbican, we're moving 10 villagers over to stone. We're moving our Imperial official over to stone. And those 5 villagers that we had before, they're still gathering up that wood. Now, we could have flexed this wood. We could have put this wood into an archery range. We could have put it into an outpost. But instead, we save it. We're now making a town center. So we'll speed it up a little bit. And of course, we're rallying here to food. But you guys see where I'm going with this. And so now, against the Mongol player, and remember, with this, okay, we can still be pushing their gold. If they push you back with archers over on the gold, well, congratulations. Now you can push them off the gold once again. And so they're thinking in their heads, they're like, all right, I'm gonna fast castle here, and then you're camping their gold, you're slowing them down. At the same time, you've maybe got your scout over here just in case they decide to go onto the other gold mines. But now we've got our town center coming in. 7 minutes 40. So not the fastest, but at the same time, considering the opening that we did, it's pretty darn decent. And we're going to focus on just training villagers from these. We've got our Song Dynasty. And once again, we're making sure that our second Imperial official is coming out to supervise. Now, I make a little bit of a mistake right here. I don't actually supervise. Instead, this Imperial official just goes and returns and does what it does best. So that's my mistake. But this Imperial official should be supervising these villagers out here. And we've got that magic number, 22 villagers here on food, and now start rallying out towards. So we'll speed it up a little bit, because from this point in the game, it's more about like variability and changing the way that you play and being flexible as a gamer. But I'll just show you what I would have done in this situation. So I'm going to assume, for all intents and purposes, that my enemy did get an outpost up over on this wood and denies out this hunt. And they could just sit there with the Khan and just pop off the arrow. And so that's why I don't actually take this, because very easily this can be denied by an outpost. At the same time, behind this, we're looking to begin walling up. That's really important. Maybe there's Mangudai raids that are coming through, and they're very difficult to deal with. So we're going to start walling up behind this. But at the same time, we're still expanding with our berries. And look at that, we're moving our Imperial official out to start supervising. 11 villagers out here, 11 villagers on this one. And we've stopped completely with the mill. And now, because we lost the front, we focused a little bit more on wood. And of course, that means now we can add in a granary. We've also completely walled ourselves in. I say completely. We are still exposed at the front. You know, Mangudai running through here would definitely be a possibility. So that's my mistake. I should be walling across the entire way. The best thing you can do is just wall the entire front of your base and just put a gate in. That way, you're guaranteed to be okay against civilizations like the Mongols. And then behind this, we're just obviously adding in more units in the feudal age, because maybe they're massing up units here. Maybe they're going for a bit of trade themselves. And it is going to mean that we're going to need to attend to them in the feudal age. But then behind this, so just spamming out units, and that's pretty much it. We're just our main focus is getting up our farming economy against the Mongols. There are very likely chances that you're not going to be able to push out against your enemy if they've got outposts around here. You know, like, here's a great spot for an outpost in the South Forest. There's probably more outposts down here. We know that there's an outpost here, denying our food here. So we can't take our deer, even though we would love to. Even though we put our Barbican in a position so that we could. But the reality of the matter is, even if we put our Barbican right here, that outpost still denies the deer being collected. Or at least we're going to assume that it does, just so that we can demonstrate or look to emulate the best way to react to our enemy. So one of the main issues that you're going to have, and this is a good issue to have, is too much food. So you've got to try and make sure that you're balancing dropping down farms at the right pace. Because if you drop down farms too fast and you don't have enough wood left, you're going to end up in a situation like this where my macro's gone out the window. And look, it's great having this much food, but at the same time, I would have rather not put down 4 or 5 farms, and then I've got more production coming out from my buildings, or more buildings to produce with. Something like that. But anyway, we move forward on to the next build order. So we've done the 2 TC Song Dynasty Defense, we've done the 2 TC Fast Castle, we've done the Barracks opening, we've done the water opening. And now for a build order that you will all be familiar. This is the 1 town center Chukunu push. This push is by far, in my opinion, if you're just looking to climb, learn this, and yeah, it's a very strong strategy. Let's just say that much. You know, this is the infamous Reddit post about, you know, being too strong. That one. So I've shown this strategy before in a video called "This strategy is overpowered," and I've shown. I think it's probably got like 30,000 views at the moment. So a lot of people have seen it. So if you've seen the video, you might just want to skip through forward to the next video. Otherwise, if you want to refresh up, then I guess just chill out. So this strategy is designed to attack at about the 10-minute mark. And what we're going to be doing is attacking with 3 battering rams and about 25 chukunu. And we're going to be making sure that we've got spears that are being supervised at our home base and are coming forward, so that if we are dealing with cavalry, we've at least got those. We're also going to be pushing with +1 ranged attack. Let's take a look at how the build order goes. So, starting off, all villagers going out to a straggler tree, Imperial official, and villagers. This is by far the most efficient opening that you can have in any Chinese build order, and that's why you see it so often in the build orders that I'm doing. It's by far the best thing that you can do. Getting all this wood out nice and early just really helps with the flexibility that you're going to have to deal with. So one of the things that I would recommend, if you're having trouble putting down your mills early, like maybe you're having trouble catching your villagers before they reach the town center, instead of putting your mill down next to the straggler tree, just put it down over on the edge of the town center like this. It gives you a lot more space to play with, and also guarantees that your sheep is going to be hit before you actually finish your mill. So that's always a nice little thing. Obviously, it's a bit more walking distance, like an extra 2 or 3 seconds, but that ain't too bad. So the build order here is a little bit different, where we've got a very heavy food focus in the beginning of the game. We're going to be going up to 11 villagers on food, which is quite a lot. We're also going to be picking up that 3 wood that we always love to pick up, just so we can round out our 175. And dropping a village down on our back berries, just with space for a mill right next to it. Small little details, and we'll speed it up. Because now we just send all of our villagers over to food. Now we're going to be collecting tax whenever our tax reaches 40. And our scout has obviously gone to the middle and then gone around, done a little bit of a loop. Picked up a whole bunch of sheep, so they'll be bringing that back. And we're going to slow it down now that we've gotten up to 2 minutes and 10 seconds, because this is where it starts getting important. You're going to take 5 villages. You can actually see I've got one idle right there. And as a consequence of having 1 idle villager, he's been a bad boy and he has actually come up and killed this sheep. So this is just me. Whenever you're killing sheep, you want to try and make sure that you're spacing them out. So think of like, get a villager and stretch them out so that it's like 1 body length apart on all of the sheep. That's probably the best way that you can do it. And then that way you don't get what has just happened here. Everything I try and do, I try to mitigate this type of thing happening. But yeah, it's unfortunate. 5 villagers on the wood. So here we're not interested in timing or anything like that. We're just going to put these 5 villagers on wood. Obviously, we've got a lot of villagers queued up here. And we're just going to put them through the town center. We're just going to do the little TC pop and fail it. So we're going to make sure we do the TC pop correctly. There we go. I think we also send out 1 villager too many because we changed the rally point there. But anyway, all you need to know is that we should just be rallying to food right now. There we go. Rallying to food. And we do have 5 villagers out on gold. So at this point, once again, we are just going to speed it through. We're going to collect our taxes when we hit 40 tax. As soon as we hit 40, there we go, collecting the tax, and pause, because once we hit 29.30, we're going to drop this gold off at the mining camp, and we're going to drop down our Imperial Academy, which is positioned perfectly right here between everything that we need. Once we've got 9 villagers on food, we're then going to start rallying out over onto wood. And we want to make sure that we've got 3 villagers. Actually, I probably need to double check my numbers. I can't remember if it's 3 villagers on wood. This build order, I don't actually use this build order a lot. So I developed it and then never used it because mainly 2 TC Song Dynasty is the primary way I play China. And so making sure that I also did an early drop off here, just so that I can hit my Song Dynasty a little bit faster. You don't have to do it. But now the age up comes through. Barbican getting placed down at 418. And these villagers are just going to be rallied back out over to gold. So as soon as we age up, as soon as we click up, we're just moving 5 villagers from food over onto wood. So we want a big boost to our wood economy, which is why we're not rallying any more than that. We're just going to keep the 5 or the 8 villagers out there, and then we're going to rally back down to food right here. Now our Imperial official in this kind of downtime is just going to go collect some taxes as well. And then going to supervise the drop-off, because all of these guys are about to drop off. You can see they're on 7s and 8s at the moment. So we want to supervise that just so that we maximize our wood. And then once they've done that, and the Imperial Academy comes through, then we're going to drop off the gold that we picked up here, and we're going to use that gold to make an Imperial official. So any second now, we'll be dropping it off. So there you go, and boom. Really, like, the timing on it is just so immaculate. Age up comes through, 502. I think it was maybe a 501, so not too bad. And our archery range comes down straight away. And of course, we're going to make sure that we pick up gold so that we can use our gold to begin our production of our Chukunu. We're now doing pretty solid. We're going to start supervising our archery range eventually. We want to make sure that we've actually got enough food to support a supervised archery range, and whenever we don't or we can't supervise the archery range with 100% uptime, we're just going to send our Imperial official off to go do Imperial official things. And so here, we're just supervising. That's it. Just supervising the archery range, rallying out to food. We're going to have 12 villagers on food, and then we're going to start rallying to wood. And that's it. It's super duper simple. Maintaining our production. Maintaining our villages. Pumping out imperial officials, collecting tax whenever we need to. Whenever we've got the chance. We'll start stacking up that gold. Once we went up to 12 villages on food, then we started rallying out to wood. Getting double broadaxe as well. You can pick this up as quite early because you are going to have excess gold that's just kind of chilling out. So I think typically once you get to 12 villages on food, then you can add in double broadaxe because you'll have enough food for villagers, Chukunu, and getting the double broadaxe because it does cost 50 wood, or 50 food, sorry. Another village coming down, and now we're going to be thinking about getting down our blacksmith. Once we've got the resources for it, we'll drop down our blacksmith, and then we're going to replace our lumber camp. Wonderful. And now we're getting +1 ranged attack behind this. Nice little massive Chukunu that is building up here. We're at 8 minutes 30, and a huge mass has come out. Getting attacked by a scout. Nothing to worry about. +1's come through. We're now going to be looking for +1 ranged attack, or rather ranged armor, and now we're going to be dropping down a barracks. So this is the key here. We would have, if we scout that our enemy is making cavalry, we can add in our barracks earlier. But if we scout that our enemy is not making cav, we don't even need to add in a barracks, to be honest. But it is always nice to have it just in case. Chukunu are going to be able to hold their own against cav in this number. Just remember, we've supervised an archery range for the first 9 minutes of the game. It has pumped out 29 units by itself. 29 units in 9 minutes. And keep in mind, this got placed at like, what, 5 minutes 30? So in 4 minutes, it's pumped out 29 Chukunu. Your enemy, to keep up with that, is probably going to need 2 stables. So they would need to be... we're investing 100% of our resources into this attack. They need to be doing the same to defend it. And that's just not fair. Battering ram timing comes in. 10 minutes on the dot. We're a little bit late out of the box. That's okay. Chukunu just doing his thing. And that's it. That's how it goes. And then from here behind this, we're making sure that we're moving and rotating our villagers onto additional food sources. I think we do go idle for a little bit with our production. But just pushing with the battering rams, and just remember our focus here is on production and then landmarks. That's the most important thing. So one of the things I like to do, use your spearmen to make the additional battering rams. You're following up battering rams because you start with 3 battering rams, but this can go higher. And you don't need your spearmen unless there's cavalry. So use the spearmen to make the battering rams, because if you use your spearmen to siege down the Mansa Quarry or the town center will fire on them, and then you can potentially die to Sofa or Horsemen or Spahi or something like that. So that would be my tip. Just use the spearmen for doing that. And that's it. That is it. That is all you need to see of that strategy. All right, well, we've got one strategy left to go over. It is the one town center fast castle with a barbecue. This strategy is one that I used to use quite a lot. I don't use it as much anymore. And the reason why is because I prefer 2 TC Song Dynasty into fast castle against it. This is a very aggressive strategy. It is a strategy that you can probably use against almost every single civilization. It just wouldn't work against a lot of them. That's the key difference, all right? So, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the circumstances that you might use it. You might use it if you're playing at a level. Let's say you're playing ranked, okay? And you've played 3 games so far today, and they've all been against the English, and every single game, that damn English player is rushing you with men-at-arms. How are you going to act? How are you going to act? This is how you're going to act. You're going to go for this strategy, because this strategy gets you up a nice, quick barbican safely on your gold, and then you don't have to worry. Let's see exactly how it starts off. So, as all good Chinese build orders begin, we go out onto the straggler trees. Get our imperial official queued up at the town center with a villager behind it, and we begin moving towards the front of our base to find sheep. You can see we spot out a sheep right here. I don't know whether we'll actually go and grab him or not. Looks like we probably won't. That's all right. We're too focused on the build order. It happens. And now we move. We put the mill down over on this position just because I want to make sure our base building is perfect. That's embarrassing that I missed that sheep, by the way. And then, so from here, we're rallying villagers out. We're going to make sure that we pick up 3 wood from this before we go out to the gold mine. We want to let our food villagers be food villagers forever. So we want three wood. And then we're rallying out to the gold mine. Continuing to pick up sheep. Let's speed it up a little bit. So the difference here is that instead of going for 2 villages on gold, we're actually going to be going for 3 villages on gold, and we're going to be sending them quite early. So at this point in a game, 1 minute 17, your enemy has dropped down a barracks, and the men-at-arms is on the way. Men-at-arms might be over here. Now, depending on where your enemy scouts, it's going to take some time for them to get to your gold. We've been very fortunate in that we've got a gold in the back of our base. But maybe we don't. Maybe we get a front gold, and that's going to really limit our time. 2 minutes is the deadline. I don't want to be here past 2 minutes. But the reality is, I probably am. So that's why we've got 3 villagers out here, because these 3 villagers are going to enable you to gather more gold than otherwise. Now, if your enemy comes out and starts hitting you here, instead of moving all the villagers back slowly, what you're going to be doing is moving the villagers back one by one, depending on who's getting hit. And then that way, you're going to have enough gold that you're going to be able to age up. You can see it coming through here. Keep in mind, we've also got the tax. And we're at 2 minutes 15 here, and we're just about to have enough gold to get you up. And that should be fine. That around that timing is exactly when the men-at-arms are going to be coming in. So, now that you've got that gold, you're just gonna stay there unless they come. If they come, then that is a different story. Now, when it comes to positioning your Barbican, you want to be, the best way to do it is you want to click on your town center, and you want to check this radius. And you want to make sure that your villagers are building the Barbican within this radius. So we can see I'm going to put down my Barbican, and they are within this radius. So that means if the men-at-arms comes through and tries to hit me, I'm just going to move my villagers up over here. And then the men-at-arms is going to start taking shots. And that's fine. If he wants to take shots, he can take shots. Let him take shots. And then, you know, shots. And he will die. Because that's what alcohol does to you. Alright, well, at this point in time, we're just continuing to rally to food. So what we're doing is we're maximizing the efficiency of our Imperial Official. Imperial Official gives that extra 20% with supervision. So every villager that comes out onto food is 1.2 villagers. If a villager was to go out to wood now, the villager wouldn't be 1.2 villagers, it would just be 1 villager. So that's how we maximize our bonus in the early game, because that 12 villagers is actually 14.4 something or other. Alright, so on the backside, the Barbican is going to come up at about 350, and this is going to guarantee the integrity of the gold. We never have to worry about it. We're up to 13 villagers on food, and that's okay. The main focus here is because we're going castle age, we want to really gather up food. And we're 4 minutes into this game, and we're already gathered up 400 food for our castle age. So it is a pretty decent timing that we've got here. We're making sure that we collect our taxes whenever we've got 40 tax inside our mill. We're making sure that we pick it up and we drop it off. There we go. And the tax itself is going to help you significantly getting up to the castle age, and obviously to the feudal age as well. It's a big part of it. So we're up to 15 villagers now on food, and that's where we can say, all right, that's enough. Let's get some wood finally in it, because we are going to need some wood eventually. We're going to need to be dropping down a barracks here. Now, it's up to you which landmark you want to start going for in the castle age. Now, the landmark I use here is the Imperial Palace, because I'm a bit of a memester. But you can go for the Astronomical Clock Tower as well. I think that's probably the best bet, if I'm being honest with you. But it is, it's one of those things where you can really go for whichever one you please. And I'll show you how I use the Imperial Palace here as well. So once you start approaching 1200 food, this is where you're going to be doing the transfer. So you're taking every single villager except for 4 villagers off food, and you're bringing them down onto gold. Okay? And from here, we're also going to be bringing the Imperial Official down. And the idea here, and you might be thinking, well, Drongo, that's terrible efficiency, moving all of those villagers, and you're only 200 gold away. Well, the idea here is that we want to maximize the efficiency with the Imperial Official. We could have brought out, you know, 2 or 3 more villagers down here earlier, but then we're losing out efficiency on the Imperial Official on the mill, and we're also losing Imperial Official efficiency down here on the gold mine, because as you guessed it, we're going to be supervising down here as well, which means that we are maximizing every little bit that we can get. And as you can see, the age up is about to come through. I think just shy of 6 minutes. There you go, 6 minutes on the dot. Not bad. So we're only going to use 5 villagers here to age up. Remember, China ages up faster than all civilizations. So this is the equivalent of 10 villagers. And of course, we're protected by the Barbican. But this is probably bad. I would have gone maybe a bit closer to my Barbican next time. Maybe like at the front of my town center, something like that. But this isn't the best, but that's okay. And then from there, we're moving villagers back over to food, and we're also splitting them between wood. The wood that we gathered from this straggler tree, we're using it to make sure that we are able to put a lumber camp down. And with that lumber camp, we're actually going, or with that wood from the lumber camp, we're going to be dropping a barracks. And with the barracks, we're going to be spamming palace guards. And palace guards, for anybody who doesn't know, are men-at-arms that are much faster than them. And they don't have as much armor, so they're not as good in fights, but they are very, very good at raiding. So what we're going to do, you can see right now on our minimap just how much line of sight we've got here because of the Imperial Palace. What we're going to be doing is looking for enemy villages for where we can raid. Now, we're at the 7-minute mark, okay? Now, remember, we were dealing with an enemy that was pushing us on our gold potentially. But even if we weren't, at the 7-minute mark, the enemy might be setting up for some longbows on the front side. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our palace guards to liberate ourselves. So you can see we've gathered up a lot of food from the main mill that we've got, but we're going to need to expand soon. So what we're going to do, these guys are just going to the straggler, don't worry, is we're going to use these palace guards to liberate ourselves from our English oppressors. First palace guard comes out. Now, another key factor here is you don't want to push with 1 palace guard. Ideally, you want at least 2. And then these 2 palace guards are going to enable you to clear out your berries, because he's probably camping the berries. He's got a Barbican down here. He's not camping that. But he would be camping the berries. And then from there, you're able to push out, and you're supervising your barracks. So you're getting super duper fast production here with your palace guards. It's taking only 9 seconds. Normally a palace guard is going to take you 22 seconds. So you're getting a pretty decent discount right there. But of course you do go idle sometimes with the palace guard, because you don't have amazing production just yet. Now, another key thing that you're going to be doing is dropping down a blacksmith. As you can see, we're dropping a blacksmith down right now. And this blacksmith is going to be giving us the most important upgrade that we can get, Iron Undermesh. Iron Undermesh is going to mean that against the English especially, we're able to take less damage when we start diving the town center. And now that we're moving out across the map, we need to start seeing those enemy villages. So we're going to use Imperial Spies, and we're going to try and track them down. So we're going to make assumptions at this point that the enemy has probably pushed your gold mine, your Barbican has forced them back, your enemy probably tried to follow up with some kind of like council hall longbow attack, and you've pushed them back with the palace guards. Maybe you've killed them completely. Maybe they've just, ran away from you. But now you're going to be pushing and you're on the aggressive. So what do? How do you play on the aggressive? You're going to take your Imperial Palace and you're going to hit this button here once you start moving out. That's the key thing. Don't do it as soon as you age up. You need to start doing it once you're moving out, once you're getting ready into position, and you're going to use it just like that. We're going to pause the game, and you're going to see where all your enemy villages are. We see that there's a couple under the town center. We see that there's plenty over on the gold, and there doesn't seem to be any other villages out here because our English player is an easy AI. So from there, we're just going to go hit all of the villages, and that's it. And all we're doing is supervising the barracks whenever we've got the whenever we're not supervising our upgrades. Remember, we want to try and get +2 as well. So we've got +1. We want to try and get +2. And once we've got +2, then we can do something that is a little bit annoying, and that's called diving the town center. So for anybody who doesn't know the mechanics for the town center on its first arrow does 8 damage. Every villager that gets added into the town center after that does 6 damage. So the English town center fires 2 or double the arrows of a normal town center, which means the first arrow you're going to be taking 8 damage and then another 8 damage. And then if the enemy's got 15 villagers inside the town center, you're going to be taking 15 damage for each one of those arrows. You're going to be taking 6 damage times 15, and then because they're English, times it again by 2. Where it gets interesting, though, is because we are researching +2, the ranged armor upgrade. And what this is going to do is it means that our breakpoint goes from being 3 armor down to, or up to 5 armor. And what that does is it changes the damage from the arrows from 3 damage to 1 damage. And let's just watch what happens. Well, would you look at that? If it isn't the units that do not die. Now, interestingly, this guy is batting at the TC with his Guinsu, is it called? Yeah, Guandao. He's hitting it with his Guandao. I don't know why. I like to just let him. But you can see how long it takes for you to lose a palace guard with 2 ranged armor underneath an English town center. They're killing it. But look how fast you're bringing in units. And behind this, you're not idle. Your enemy's idle. They got 15 villagers idle. So you can literally just sit underneath the town center, just burning it if you want. Obviously, I wouldn't recommend this, but each to their own. And your enemy can't deal with it. Now, obviously, this is an easy AI. A real person might react differently. But the timing on this is very quick. We are clicking up to the 3rd age before 6 minutes. We're hitting them with a very strong attack using +2 ranged armor. And because of that, it makes it very difficult to hold. So that is going to be it. These are all the build orders. We've had the 2 TC Song Dynasty, the 2 TC Fast Castle, the Barracks opening, the Water opening, the True Canoe Push, and the BBQ Fast Castle. That is going to be it for this video. If you'd like to see more content that's educational, I encourage you to check out the Patreon. We've got plenty of coaching content over there. And other than that, I hope you've enjoyed the video. We'll catch you guys in the next one.